Boxing truth here. Keith, one time, Thurman is looking for a less threatening opponent than Jessie Vargas. Those reports were a little premature. Jessie Vargas is still in the cards. Perhaps he's a potential opponent for later in the year. He's definitely out as an opponent for Keith Thurman's comeback fight in May of this year in the Brooklyn and Barclays Center. So Thurman was true to his word. He truly wants a comeback fight, a tune-up. I'm not going to shit on Keith Thurman. He's being real with the fans. All he needs is 2 fights, and then he's ready to give the fight the fans are yearning to see, and that's the unification with Errol Spence. Coming off the elbow injury, surgery. Elbow injuries are no joke. It could affect how you throw your punches. Could have can affect your confidence in the way you throw your punches, especially the straight right hand. So it's always good to test the elbow out, see how it's feeling. Now that he's coming off a year and change layoff, if Thurman wasn't coming off an injury, he definitely will be taking a more stiffer test, a tougher fight. He's proved it in the past. He was willing to fight Sean Porter coming off a long layoff. He was willing to fight Danny Garcia. Immediately after the fight with Sean Porter, Danny Garcia was the one that needed the tune-up. Lots of psychological warfare right then and there. So Thurman in the past has proven when he's not injured that he's willing to take big fights coming off long layoffs, but this is a different situation here. He's been off for a long time. He's coming off surgery, an elbow injury that looked pretty serious. So he's going to take his time back. The WBC has granted him an optional defense. The WBC is in the welterweight division, is another division that it's been a long time since it's been a mandatory, so the mandatory is going to be due. But for the time being, Thurman's got an optional defense, which means he can choose someone in the top 15 in the rankings. And there are some cherry picks available. There are some tune-up fights available, especially in the bottom half of the rankings. So everyone's wondering, who the hell is Keith Thurman's next opponent now that Jessie Vargas is not in the cards and is considered too much of a threat for Thurman coming off this type of injury in the layoff? I don't see Jessie Vargas as potentially threatening for Thurman, but he's going to take his time and he's going to get the cobwebs out, get the feet wet. So let's figure out Keith Thurman's next opponent. So you're going to look at the rankings in the top 15 of WBA, WBC. Jessie Vargas is rated number 4 for WBC, so he's eligible to challenge Thurman. Ray Robinson is fighting Ugas from the eliminator for the IBF, so that leaves him out. It's already been placed. Rios and Garcia fighting each other. That's an eliminator for Keith Thurman's mandatory after Sean Porter. So that puts him in place for a title shot down the line. Panamera is the top-ranked fighter. Granados is coming off a loss. If you look at the WBA rankings, Samuel Vargas is there. He was considered as a potential Khan opponent, so maybe he's a potential comeback fight. Evanesian is rated as well. He could be, but I think he's fighting someone else actually. I forgot who Evanesian's fighting. I think he's fighting that top-ranked prospect, the meme machine, so he's out. So that really leaves one option from what I see in the rankings in terms of, he can speak English, he's aligned with the PBC. I got a strong feeling Keith Thurman's next opponent is going to be Jamal James, the tall welterweight guy who's coming off the knockout win over Diego Chavez, a former Keith Thurman opponent. That's who I see as the potential opponent for Thurman. He fits the bill, not very threatening, not that good. I've seen him fight a couple of times, not impressed. Other than that, I don't see any other potential opponents. Perhaps Thurman is awaiting the winner of Dylan Alexander and Victor Ortiz. That could be a potential opponent. I don't view either guy as very threatening either. I see those guys as less threatening than a Jessie Vargas as well. So the winner of that fight could be a potential opponent. So it's either between those three guys, the winner of Alexander Vargas and Jamal James. All Alexander has to do is beat Victor Ortiz, and he'll be rated by one of the sanctioning bodies that Thurman holds, and he'll be eligible to challenge Thurman for his belt. Ortiz as well. All he needs is one win. He'll find himself in a top 15 ranking in one of the belts Thurman holds. But either that or Jamal James for Thurman's comeback fight May 19th. Thurman will fight twice this year. Vargas could be next after that. And I got a feeling that Danny Garcia, who I believe is going to beat Brandon Rios, will end up fighting Sean Porter. And the winner of that fight will eventually fight Thurman, unless the WC mandates the mandatory after Thurman fights on May 19th and gets the comeback opponent out of the way. And then the big fights for 2019, which is the Errol Spence unification and whatever's left after that. Hopefully a crossroads fight between the winner of the PBC side of the welterweights, between the winner of the top ranked side, which is going to be Jeff Horn versus Terrence Crawford. Maybe the winners of those fights can eventually meet in late 2019, and maybe we'll get an undisputed welterweight champion, or at least the recognized man lineal of the division, since there needs to be more clarity in this division. There's a bunch of answers who people feel is the best welterweight. People say it's Crawford. He's never fought at welterweight. Some people think it's Horn, since he beat Manny Pacquiao, the true lineal champion of the division. Some people think it's Thurman, since he unified 2 belts and has a solid resume. And so a lot of people think it's Spence, simply because they think he's the goods and he looks like the strongest of all the champions and other fighters in the division. But we'll see who Thurman's next opponent. It's either Jamal James or the Alexander Ortiz winner from what I see in the rankings. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.